What's up, everyone? This is Dan Norman with Inside Boxing, and today I want to talk about the update regarding Turki Alalshikh, TKO Promotions, and the rest of the boxing world. So since Turki Alalshikh's announcement that he was joining forces with Dana White and TKO Promotions, it definitely sent shockwaves throughout the boxing world, and a lot of promoters had something to say about it. Oscar De La Hoya seemed to be positive, but overall he did mention that he was somewhat offended that Turki would have Dana White come in and be the man to take over boxing, the lead promoter for TKO, because Oscar feels like he's been in boxing for so many years, whether that was fighting and becoming a champion or being a promoter, developing the likes of Canelo, Ryan Garcia. So he said that he did feel offended, but he tried to make light of it at the same time, keep it positive, because, you know, everybody does want that Turki money, right? So if they're not part of that equation, then they're being left out. They're not going to make the money that they want, and they're going to be provided with less opportunities. So Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, they both seem to take it somewhat more of a positive approach. They didn't say that they were offended or threatened by it, but you know, you can only think that they do feel a certain way about this whole thing since Dana White's coming in and Turki's really seeming to back him on everything and bulldozing through the boxing industry. So Eddie Hearn's take was that, you know, it's positive for boxing because it's only going to bring more eyeballs to the sport. But you could tell that he did kind of feel a little bit, you know, damaged ego, and he had to kind of put it out there that he is the best promoter in boxing. So he wanted to make a statement that nobody's just going to come in and kind of take over the sport. You know, and Eddie does have a good reasoning for that. So he's put on a lot of shows. You know, he's definitely the best promoter in the UK. He tried to come out to the States, you know, and that's tougher to do when you have other promoters like Oscar and Top Rank in the mix. So I don't know if they necessarily did great out in the States, but they did do really well, and they continue to do well in the UK and other parts of the world. Frank Warren, you know, he's been in the boxing game for so long, so you can only think that he's going to retire soon. He seemed to take it somewhat positive as well, you know, thinking that it's a good thing for the sport. He wants to keep that relationship strong with Turki Alalshikh and, you know, see where that goes. All right, moving on to the sanctioning bodies. Now, not too many of them have said anything about this. However, Mauricio Suleiman from the WBC did make a statement online and basically saying the same thing, you know, echoing what Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren were saying, that it's good for the sport. There was a clip going around that was viral, and it appeared that Mauricio Suleiman felt threatened and that he was going to defend the WBC and fight back. But I was told from a contact who was actually there that that clip was from quite a few years ago, so that wasn't a recent clip. So it just goes to show you can't you know, you can't listen to everything you see online because it's not always what it seems. So again, the WBC president, Mauricio Suleiman, taking a positive stance on this. However, I think that, you know, with the whole situation with Canelo being on stage trying to bring the WBC belt on and Turki basically waving it off, you know, saying that, no, don't bring it on, that could only kind of hurt you being from the WBC. You know, if it were me, I would feel a little bit pissed off about that. But, you know, it's a fine line they want to dance because they want to keep that relationship strong with Turki Alalshikh. WBC does have the Grand Prix going on, so it looks like Turki's doing a multitude of things, not just a TKO promotion. He has a Ring Magazine events. He has a Riyadh season with WBC, and you know, he's got a bunch of stuff going on. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. With that all being said, Turki does represent Riyadh season, and he does have a multitude of things going on, like I just said. TKO promotion with Dana White. He has Ring Magazine events. He has the Riyadh season, which is focused on more of the upcoming boxers. So there's quite a few things going on. And, over the years, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, what he sticks with and what he's just doing for now. I think that the Ring Magazine events at the moment are going to serve as a platform for making the best fights happen. Like we have the Times Square event coming up in May with Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and a whole bunch of other good matchups. So that's going to be a stacked card, and they're actually going to rent out Times Square, which has never been done before. And it's going to cost an exorbitant amount of money to do that. But it's interesting because Turki was recently interviewed, matter of fact, yesterday, and it seemed like he kind of wanted to clear the air with everything because there was a lot of different information going around, and a lot of people didn't know how to take it, right? Like, are you coming into the boxing business to learn about it from these promoters, gain a relationship, and then take all that along with the Ring Magazine, go with Dana White and the TKO Group to form your own dominant promotion to take over? Or are you going to simultaneously work with these other promoters outside of that promotion, or potentially together? So there was a lot of confusion as to what exactly his stance is and what his plans are, because some of the things he said in the past week didn't really help, right? It only created more drama. So yesterday he spoke about some of the plans and what he wants to do with Ring Magazine. They want to create movies and cards and all different types of stuff, which is pretty cool. He wants to continue to work with the different sanctioning bodies, with the promoters, and develop this TKO promotion as well. But one thing that he did say was over the next year or two, he wants to continue to do that. So in my mind, what I think he's planning is a transition period. So from now, over the next 3 to 5 years, I think he's going to continue to work with everybody. They're going to try and sign upcoming boxers and talent to the TKO brand so that they get them locked in, and essentially focusing on the next wave of superstars. So at the moment, a lot of these superstars that are active are all signed to different promotions. So I think Turki and Dana realize that. So for now, over the next few years, they kind of have to work with these other promoters if they want to continue to do these events, or they can try and buy them out on their contract, which, is going to cost a lot as well. Some are becoming free agents like Shakur Stevenson. So you could see Turki probably trying to, pick up these type of fighters that are coming off contracts. But I think that they realize this is going to take a little longer than they expect to really get a strong foothold in the boxing game. It's not going to happen overnight. There's too many promoters that have a lot of power, network deals, and signed fighters. It's going to take some time, and Turki realizes that. So I think this, interview yesterday where he was talking about everything, he basically wanted to squash any type of, friction between the sanctioning bodies and the promoters. He wanted to clear the air. And I think that for now, they're all going to get along, continue to do events together and all that kind of stuff. But I think Turki long term, and it's not even that long term, it's really like 3 to 5 years, I think he's going to try and just completely take over boxing with TKO promotion so that they're the dominant force. And, the sanctioning bodies, the promoters that exist now will be less relevant, because I don't understand how he would work with them in TKO if they just want one belt, Like if you're planning on keeping them around or working with them outside of TKO promotions, you're essentially just being another sanctioning body. There's nothing really special about what you're doing, because the WBC, WBO, WBA, IBF, and then TKO, what's the difference, right? Like, other than you have deeper pockets. So I think the ultimate goal is to be the dominant championship belt and promotion, and slowly have the sanctioning bodies fade away, and with that, the promoters as well. Now, one of the big questions I have is during the next 3 to 5 years, however long it takes for them to become more of a dominant force, sign the upcoming talent, turn them into superstars, and are they going to try and fade out these sanctioning bodies, promoters, so that they're less relevant, be the dominant force, create a structure like the UFC, and pay like the UFC? Because if that's the case, you're going to empower these boxers to want to leave your promotion. And that's the one thing I don't quite understand what the play is, because with the UFC model, a part of their success is that they don't pay as much. It might be a little bit more distributed than boxing, because boxing is the 1% where they get paid the most money. But at the same time, a lot of the UFC fighters don't make that much money. They're superstars, main event fighters. They don't make nearly as much as pay-per-view boxers like Ryan Garcia, Canelo. So there is a big disparity there. And if they try to implement that model in boxing with their plan over time, and I understand it is a business, right? Like, the UFC succeeded for a reason. And one of the big reasons is they didn't pay these exorbitant amounts of money to the main event fighters, unless it was like Conor McGregor. So, that model, when they try to implement it, it might sound good, it might look good, and I think in the beginning they're going to toss money around like they are with everyone, but eventually they're going to try and hone down on the spending, because Turki right now is not operating a real business in my eyes. He's throwing money and he doesn't really care about the bottom line because he has an endless amount of it. But when you actually try to run a business and you care about the bottom line, and Dana White and them, I think Dana White's going to really care about that because he wants to make sure it's a successful business. But at the same time, Turki's paying Dana White and TKO Group to run the events, so he's paying them a fee. So there's very little risk for them, for this whole situation with TKO Promotions, because they're not really putting up so much money in risk. They just have to run it, try and figure out like how they implement their system in boxing and see if it's successful or not. If it's not, then they don't really lose that much, other than, a little bit of damage to their reputation. But at the end of the day, they're from MMA, right? So they've succeeded in MMA, and if they try in boxing and don't succeed, then, so what? They didn't really lose much money because Turki paid for it. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out, because if they try to do that, throw money up front, get everybody excited, get some stars on board, develop the next wave of talent, and then try to slowly trim down and do what they did with the UFC, not let them have the sponsors and when they walk out, and have less purses and all that kind of stuff. Fighters, after a while, I don't think they're going to be so excited about it anymore. And who's waiting on the other side of the boxing world is all these other promoters that have network deals that will pay, and I'm not saying that the rest of the boxing world has it all figured out and right, because they don't. It's a mess, but the UFC, TKO, they're always going to be up against these other promoters and other people that are going to come around with money, and the network deals that will pay money to these promoters to put on the big events, right? So boxing promoters, they might not have such a tight-knit system like Dana White and the UFC, but that will help them get fighters to go with them because they'll pay a lot of money, right? So if TKO, tries to do the same system and pay structure as the UFC, I don't see it really thriving like they think it will. If they do the same kind of structure and they have Turki's money and they pay way better, then that will make it flourish. So a lot of it's going to come down to money, And opportunity will be on both sides, whether you're with the other promoters or you're with TKO. And I think trying to get rid of sanctioning bodies or fade them out is going to be very difficult because, you know, a lot of these boxers grow up wanting to win the WBC belt and some of the other belts. So there's a lot of history behind that. Now, the one thing I think Turki did that was smart was he purchased the Ring magazine, which has the associated belt with it. Now, technically it's not a sanctioning body, but a lot of people respect the Ring magazine rankings because they don't have a bias in it. You know, like they actually choose who the best boxers are, and they don't base it off sanctioning fees and all this other crap. So I think there's a lot more legitimacy when it comes to their rankings compared to some of the other sanctioning bodies. However, they're not officially a sanctioning body. So I don't know. It's interesting to see how this all plays out. I think it'll take about 5 years for TKO to really get more of a stronghold on the boxing game. But for now, Turki's going to play nice, work with everybody, continue to put on these big events and try and get TKO to grow in the background and then become the monster that takes over boxing altogether. So let me know what your thoughts are. Leave a comment and yeah, we'll see what happens.